Hello everyone, Tomasz here from Frames magazine. We are currently working on the 17th edition of the magazine. We are actually about to ship it to you in a couple of days. But in the meantime, I wanted to bring you a conversation with one of my favorite photographers these days, Adrian Vila. I absolutely love his black and white work. I have discovered it a couple of years ago, and I was extremely happy to be able to record this conversation with him just a couple of days ago. So I hope very much you will enjoy it. Adrian, so nice to finally connect. I have been, following your work for, I guess it must be like, I don't know, maybe 5-7 years. I don't know, mainly on Instagram. Then I visited your website. Absolutely love your work, black and white. I am a perfect viewer for your work because, I was a photographer myself and kind of, it maybe it's coincidence, but black and white and especially square format is kind of my territory. So looking at your work, I reacted immediately. Absolutely love, the look, the content of your images, the style, how you portray the world. So nice talking to you. How are you doing? You're in Spain today, right?
Yes, I am. I'm visiting my family. I'm usually in the US. I haven't had a permanent home for years now, and I've been just moving around from Spain to the US. My wife is from the United States, so we move in between places, and that's been great for my photography because I'm never anywhere for too long. So yeah, but yeah, it's great to be here. So thank you for having me.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, I was about to say, not having a permanent home for a photographer sounds quite okay, right?
Yeah. It is
Yeah,
great. I mean, it comes with some downsides because, of course, it's harder to keep in touch with friends and family and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's great. A change of scenery every once in a while is always nice.
Exactly. Well, let's start with your black and white. I did some research, I went through your website, to your biography and so on, and I know as a fact that you wrote about it somewhere that you actually shot more in color, in the past. But then at some point, as I understand, you said, no, I want to be true to myself. You even removed much of the many color images from your portfolios and so on. And you dedicated your photography life to black and white, right? Was it always somewhere down there, living in you, and you knew about it? Tell us more about this love, to black and white.
I don't think so because I came to photography very late in life. Very late. I was in my 30s. I used to be a computer engineer. I was when I actually moved to the US because I met my wife and I moved there that I started to see, new things, new landscapes, new cities, and I started to take photos of all that stuff and sharing it with my family and my friends and everything. So that's how I got into photography. And the first photos were in color because that's what you do, right? When you buy a camera, when you buy a phone, the default is color. That didn't used to be the case many years ago when we shot film. We only had black and white film, but now everything comes in color. So that's how I did things for a very long time. And I was having fun, photographing landscapes and whatnot. But then I got burned out eventually. And it was just, after a lot of experimentation and trying new things that I got to black and white. I was love at first sight. And I haven't looked back since then because it's for me, it's a completely different approach. It's not, just capturing the same thing, but without the colors. To me, it's like seeing a completely different new world. And it's every time I get my camera to my eye, the viewfinder, it's like a window to something that is completely different. That is something that is very similar to what you see with your eyes, but at the same time is totally different. And I cannot conceive photography now in any other way.
So is it, portraying those scenes, those locations, the world in front of you in black and white? You said it was kind of like a process of experimentation, but step by step you are getting closer to this realization that it's something that resonates with you, right? Very, very strongly.
Yeah.
But so what, if you would have to kind of define what is it on this emotional level that exactly resonates with you? Some people say, photographing in black and white, you are getting rid of the colors, you are concentrating on the essence and so on and so forth. Is it somewhere along those lines or is it something different for you?
Sure, there is some of that for sure, because when you get rid of the colors, you are left with just the shapes and the textures and it's basically light or the absence of light. But to me, it's more like with color, I was capturing the world as I was seeing with my eyes. To me, it just feels more real. And with black and white, I can I can use my imagination. It's something that it only exists in my mind to some degree, because with black and white also it opens the door to a little bit different post-processing. Like you can increase the contrast, decrease the contrast much more than you can do with color. You have more latitude because a color photograph feels more real. So if you work on it a little bit, it just starts to kind of fall apart. With black and white, you can do more things. So I can, customize that vision to my own vision. And that is what I think it comes down to, is that to me, black and white is a more creative, it lets you express yourself better. So it connects better with me in that sense. It resonates more because I'm able to express myself better with black and white than I can with color.
Every single time I look at your photographs, I can't help it. Just happens naturally that I immediately think of the work of Michael Kenna. I am pretty sure you must know his work. And
yes.
Was he is he one of the inspirations for you as well, or is it just a coincidence? Do you actually believe in the power of inspiration, of influence, of photographers that were there before us or still working, but other people's work? Do you look at other photographers' work a lot?
Absolutely, yeah, of course. And Michael Kenna was one of my greatest inspirations when I first got into black and white photography. I didn't start taking photos in black and white because of him. He came later, but the whole square format, it was because I was inspired by him. But I'm inspired by other photographers like Bill Brandt or Sebastian Salgado or Joseph Kudelka. He's another one of my favorite photographers, even though his photographs are totally different from mine. But it's still an inspiration, more in the lifestyle, because Joseph Kudelka is someone who travels a lot and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I do look up to other photographers, and not just the well-known photographers like Michael Kenna, but also I know some people on Instagram online that I've never met personally. They are not well-known in the photography world, but I think that today there is a lot of high-quality work being shared. Of course, there is a lot of junk too, but if you know where to look, you can find amazing work that is not well known, and I get inspiration from that. And I believe that everyone should find their own voice, and you should find your own voice, but still you can gain a lot from looking at the work of others. And to some degree, I even I visited in the past some locations where Michael Kenna or Bill Brandt were, and I tried to recreate their exact same images, because I wanted to be at the same spot and see what they saw and experience what they experienced, even though it was like maybe 40, 50 years later. So the place for sure changed since then. But I wanted to experience what they experienced, and it's not just to copy what they did. It's just to be part of their vision and to see how that works. So to some degree, not to some degree, sorry, I do find a lot of value in looking at the work of others and getting inspiration in that, because I believe that photography is a visual language. And like any other language, we have words and the structures that we need to use, and the more knowledge we have about them, the more tools we have, the better we're going to be able to express ourselves. But in the end, of course, we need to find our own voice.
Yeah, absolutely. I also come from the music, classical music world myself a bit, and still practicing it. So it's exactly the same. Surrounding myself, with different kinds of music, and not even only classical music. Everything starts working in the background, and then kind of and then channels itself through our own eyes, through our own ears, vision, and so on. So I couldn't agree more. When I was looking through your portfolio just now before recording the conversation, I guess I found one. You can correct me if I'm mistaken. I guess I found one image that is not in square format. Tell me about this square format. What, why, and what, speaks to you so strongly about this particular ratio?
I think it just makes for more calm photograph, quiet for quieter images somehow. I don't know what it is. It's not that. It's not just not the actual shape of the frame. Is that the way you compose the elements in the frame that is different, because with a rectangular 3x2 or even 4x3, I think 5x4 is just getting close to the square, but still there is the rule of thirds, where you place your subject maybe a little bit more to the left, maybe a little bit more to the right, to create a little bit of tension. While in a square aspect ratio, you usually, you can do a lot of things, of course, but you usually place the subject in the center. It looks good that way. It's not like a rectangular or a traditional aspect ratio. And just that, it's just everything is like more balanced to my eye. I don't know, it's really hard to express with words what it is about it, but in the end, I do it because I think it makes for calmer and quieter images. I've been experimenting with a lot of aspect ratios though, and I think that 95% of my photographs are square, but then I also have the panoramic 6x17 aspect ratio that I use sometimes, because the square aspect ratio doesn't work for every subject that you find. But yeah, I try to. That's what some people tell me. Like, why don't you shoot this in vertical or landscape? But it's like, it's not. It's because I'm not reacting to what I have in front of me. It's because it's the way I see things. I see it in a square. But sometimes I do use the panoramic aspect ratio.
Nice segue now to go, because I have a couple of questions, here for. I have to have my notes, otherwise I would be all open. But
no, I hear you.
You have a YouTube channel. I love the fact that you also contribute to this aspect of sharing the knowledge, sharing the your experiences, your explorations, and your photography walks. We can learn so much. So yeah, I have watched. I guess most of your videos, and I kind of know a little bit about your process already. But so I have a question here exactly on this piece of paper. If you would have to define, let's say you are out there in the neighborhood, walking around. What is this one, generally speaking, what is this one trigger? What is this one thing that you are reacting to, which tells you suddenly, oh, there is a photograph somewhere there? Would you be able to define, on a general note, what has to be happening in front of you?
I think it's not what is happening in front of me. It's what's happening within me. Because sometimes I might go for, like last night, I went on a walk and I didn't take any photos. But the 2 days before that, I went out with my camera and took a bunch of photos. I think it's just there is something that sometimes opens in my mind that I don't know, my eyes are more aware of what's around me, that I see images where other days I don't see any, even if it's the same spot, even the same locations. One thing that I try to do is to, try to take the first photo as soon as possible during the day or whatever. If I'm going out with the intention of taking photos, I start early, because once I get in that, in that mentality or that mindset, photography mindset, I start seeing more and more. So it's not something that I see, although sometimes that happens that way, of course. Sometimes I'm reacting to something. But if I am more, more into that photographer mode, I see more than I would if I don't. That's why I like to carry always a camera with me, because just having a camera in the pocket, I usually have it in my jacket or whatever, and I feel it there, is something that is reminding me to look for images. Whereas if I'm just walking with someone else, I'm just talking, lost in the conversation, there might be an amazing image next to me and I'm going to miss it because I'm just not in that mindset, in that...
So here I have a question. Is out of pure curiosity, because I am doing similar things occasionally. The photography walks and preparing the videos for YouTube at the same time. Yeah. If I can ask, I'm really purely curious here. The photos you're showing, you are showing the walks. You are at the same time occasionally recording some, commentary, even walking around. Does this not interfere with your mindset? How do you handle this kind of situations? Because you also present photographs from those walks, right?
Yeah, Yeah, I do. I try to do that. I mean, I don't always do that. Like if I'm right now, I'm gonna go back to San Francisco. I'm temporarily living there, and that's not something I do there in the streets because I just don't feel comfortable like having a tripod on the street or whatever. But when I'm out in nature or whatever, I usually bring a second camera with me and I set up the tripod and it takes a while. So it does interfere a little bit with the image taking process, but I find it overall at the end of the day beneficial for me because sometimes I'm not seeing any photographs. I'm just not seeing anything. And just having the video camera and trying to record a landscape, it's different also because it's not a square. I'm just recording in 3x2. I'm recording in color. So that kind of keeps me engaged with the process. I don't just give up because I'm not seeing anything. I'm just going home. And sometimes the forcing myself to see it in color and in a different way through video, it's just most of the time opens up more possibilities than it closes. It is true that sometimes if I'm having like amazing conditions, like if I love foggy weather, I love photographing in the rain, because it creates magical moments. So if I run into something that is magical and I know that is not going to last for more than 5 minutes, I'm not going to record any videos. I'm going to focus on photography and then I can talk about the photos
So
later.
photography first, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. More or less elements in the frame. Where would you like when it comes to like self-assessment of your own work? You are rather on the, I would say somewhere rather on the minimalistic side of things, but not necessarily always. I also see some frames which are more busy. Is there something that speaks to you more? This quiet, foggy scenes with 1-2 elements, or you also had some shots from streets of, I guess, San Francisco, New York, and so on. Right? What speaks to stronger?
I guess it depends on the subject, it depends on what I'm photographing, but to me it all comes down to having clarity, to actually send a clear message to the viewer and to myself, because I am the first viewer of my photographs. So as long as what we're trying to say is clear and is not, lost in clutter or whatever, I don't really care too much. I don't have a preference. Of course, I like to shoot in foggy conditions, and that kind of removes the whole background, and you can do that. But I don't like, for example, capturing like a lone tree surrounded by nothing, just in whiteness, or a car or a boat or whatever. I prefer to show some of the context because I think it adds that. It doesn't have to be, it just adds a little bit more to the subject to know what it is and whatnot. So yeah, I think I agree with you. I tend to be more minimalistic compared to other photographers probably, but not too much to the degree that it's just one thing and the rest of the frame is totally empty.
I have to tell you, you are guilty of one of my camera purchases. So in one of your videos, you mentioned that you started, at some point photography with the small Sony RX7. I bought one because of you, second hand. Absolutely agree, absolutely love it. With this pre-visualization in black and white with this small viewfinder. Are you still using this one these days?
Oh yeah, I love it. I mean, I still have like a bigger full frame camera that I use as my main camera when I go nature or I go on a photography trip somewhere. But day to day, that one is always in my pocket and it's always ready. But yeah, I've heard from so many people that actually bought that camera or a similar camera because of that video. And I think it's too bad because I was not sponsored by Sony or anything, but they should have paid me some money because of that. But yeah, I think it doesn't really matter. The camera, it doesn't have to be that one. It can be your phone too. But the whole point that I was trying to make there is to just have a camera with you. So when you see something, you can just respond really quick to it. I like that camera because of the zoom, because it goes all the way to 200 millimeters, and it's just really tiny. It fits in your pocket, and to me that is just amazing.
Yeah,
and it's really good. Yeah, the images are really good quality.
So much of it in such a small package is just actually.
Yeah, and when you are in like busy environments, like in a city or something, being able to reach that far in the focal length, you can simplify your composition a little bit more and go to the details, and I think that is very, very useful.
And when it comes to the final look, final character of your images, I love the look. It's kind of if I would not know anything about what camera you use, what process, I would be hard pressed, to say is it analog or is it digital?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it is digital, right? So this is lovely
Yes.
post-processing. I love it. You also teach, right? You also teach, and you have a couple of books or ebooks on Lightroom processing and so on, right?
Yeah, I like to teach because in a selfless way to share what I know with others, but also in a selfish way because I feel like when I teach something, I have to do some research about the topic. I need to find the words to explain it to other people, and you learn a lot by teaching. So in a selfish way, it's also very good for my own photography. I do. Some mentoring on my Patreon page. I do have a couple of ebooks about how to do post-processing and composing or composition. So yeah, that's a big part of what I want to do for sure.
Yeah, nice. I will make sure I link to everything, down in the description.
Thank you.
Adrian, let's finish up with, I prepared 5 photographs, from the beautiful big portfolio of yours. If you could share with us just, just a spontaneous thought, half a minute, 20 seconds,
Yeah.
1 minute on each of those images. Yeah, let me just try sharing the screen. Hopefully it will work fine. So let's start with this one.
Oh, nice. So this one was this was made in the last day of a 5 to 6 day photography trip to these Windmills. This is like central southeast Spain, and that day I was not expecting it, but it was beautifully foggy in the morning, and I almost didn't go there that last morning because I thought I already had gotten everything I needed. But this was I don't know. It was all somehow, this is one of the examples where I was using a longer focal length. That might have been like anything between 70 and 100. I don't really remember. And I saw I like to have the camera, the viewfinder to my eye and try to find different ways. As I said earlier, like a window to a different world. And I saw how those lines were complementing each other. And I just pressed the shutter. I took a lot of photos that morning because when it's foggy and you have beautiful subjects like that, you can find images almost everywhere. It was absolutely beautiful.
Do you usually, when you spot something like this with your eyes, do you usually react relatively quickly, till the moment you take the photo, or you kind of walk this scene around a bit longer, or is it rather quick, spontaneous process?
So when I find something like this that I know is gonna look good, it's gonna be an image that I like, I see it immediately and I work the scene quite a lot, but I take a lot of photos and I try from different angles. Like for example, you see that post or whatever that name is coming from the roof diagonally from the bottom left to the top right. So I would play with that, maybe a little bit closer to the windmill in the background, maybe a little bit farther. Maybe I would try with a longer focal length to make the windmill in the background a little bit bigger. I might just step back with a wider focal length to make it smaller. So I like to try all different things to see what looks the best and what resonates more with me. And I like to work the scene, but I usually take all the photos that I think have some potential, because one thing that I really like is, when I sit down in front of the computer at night, or when I'm sick, or when I'm tired, when I'm not traveling, I like to go through the images, and I learn a lot by comparing slightly different compositions.
Yeah, nice. Okay, photograph number 2.
Mm-hmm. That was nice. That was I made this one in San Francisco not too long ago. I think it was like a month ago or so. Again, another beautifully foggy morning. This was in downtown, and I saw those 3 figures in the building there, and how the building in the background was kind of disappearing. And this is one of the things that I like to do in my photography, is to suggest. So this image is suggesting that there is a building there behind that one, but you can't really see all of it. And so I was composing that photograph that you see there, and all of a sudden I saw, some birds passing by, and I realized that there were a lot of birds around. It didn't work the first few tries, so I just stayed in that spot for, maybe 10 to 15 minutes until I got something that I thought it worked with those birds there on top of the building.
Yeah, beautiful. I love the fact you mentioned this, this element of suggesting something in the frame. I was just in a conversation with someone about this, those parts of the photographs which are kind of unknown, that pose those questions. I think that's why I resonate so strongly with your work. Yeah, you just
Yeah.
mastered this,
not only the building in the background, but if you feel on the bottom there is like shadows. I like to play with the shadows too. I don't like to show all the details in the shadows. I like to, I think it's the suggestion and letting the viewer participate a little bit. It's very, very important.
Wonderful. Okay, let's have a look at this one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this was one of the, I love this one because this was one of the first mornings that in San Francisco, we had just moved then, and I found this, this is another of my favorite locations, by the way. This is a golf course that we have next to the house, maybe a 5-minute walk to there. It was a beautiful morning, a little bit of fog, the sun was rising, and then all of a sudden I see this coyote just walking through the golf course. And it wasn't scared of me, so I was just following the coyote from a distance for a little while until it decided to just step in front of me, in front of the rising sun in the background. And I took a bunch of pictures, and this is the one that was the best framing. But yeah, the golf courses are usually a favorite subject of mine or location of mine. Especially I shoot another one when I'm in the Midwest in Indiana. That's where my wife is from, and in the winter with the snow they look beautiful, and the trees are kind of beautifully organized and placed, and I love golf courses because of that.
I love this one. There is this whole tonality from these darkest shadows at the bottom to the basically blown out, sun white lights, and it works. It's such a balance in this frame. I love it. It's just, and of course the animal plays just perfect.
Yeah.
Actually, perfectly in the rule of third kind of
yes,
spot here
yes.
on the square, right?
This one has a little bit more tension to it for sure.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, next one is this one.
Cool. This one is different. I think it feels more calm and quieter than the previous one because the subject is more in the center. This was in the Great Sand Dunes in Colorado. It was during one of my last photography trips. I think it was in March, and I actually struggled quite a lot that day finding images. It's a place with just big dunes, and we had like sunny weather that day. And I was struggling quite a lot until I found this little branch there in the sand. So you can see that is on the top of the frame. That is it's the edge of the dune. So that was going downhill from there, and the sun was in front of me. So that's why that part is brighter, while the part of the dune that is closer to me was in shadow. And I loved the contrast between the white branch and the dark sand, and I know a little bit of life, or dead life in this case, in the desert.
Yeah, beautiful, very graphical shots, right? Wonderful. And I love the branch is slightly off center. I just love it.
Yes, yes.
You can.
I was accounting a little bit for the shadow because there is a little bit of a shadow on the right, so it kind of balances things out a little bit. But yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, and the last one is here.
Yeah, this was in Michigan. I think it's St. Joseph, Michigan. Anyway, it was a winter day. It was really, really cold, really cold. And I was actually that is a lady that was looking at the lake. That is Lake Michigan, and in the winter it kind of freezes over on the shore. So she's just looking at floating ice there. It gets really, really cold. And I was just driving around and walking around when I saw her, like just there staring at the ocean, the lake. It looks like an ocean, but it's a lake. And I knew that I don't usually photograph people because I don't know why. I think it kind of adds a sense of time that I don't want in my photographs sometimes. But in this case, it's just it was just perfect. The silhouette there in front of the frozen lake, and I took that picture. Yeah.
Yeah. No, wonderful. And again, I was just checking now. I am not 100% sure, but I guess she's like 4% off center.
perhaps.
What is that? I'm a freak, I notice such things.
Yeah.
It's on a subconscious level almost. It creates some additional tension, and you really.
Yeah. The good thing about shooting in Square too is that I'm still shooting in RAW, and that gives me the 3x2 file. So when I import those photographs into I use Lightroom, but whatever you use, I see them in square because that's how I compose them. But I can still in post do some recomposing to the left or to the right if I shoot in landscape, because the whole file is still there. So sometimes I don't get the perfect composition in cameras, but I have that wiggle room to play with the composition a little bit, and that helps quite a lot to have that thing. And this photo also shows a little bit of what I said about showing a little bit of context, because the lady is not in a white background. You can see a little bit of the eyes, but anyway, yeah.
No, Adrian, wonderful work. Last question. I mean, I would have some more, but yeah, we have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
So you have been doing photography for how long, you said? Approximately?
Maybe 10 years, like,
yes.
seriously.
You
I've been a full-time photographer, like not doing anything else, for 7 years now.
Okay, so you went, like you said, through at least a few different phases, experimenting. Now kind of you found your language. How do you feel about, looking into the future, and what are your thoughts on, self-development as a photographer? Yeah, like, for example, you found this language, you found this style for now. Are you still searching? How is the process, and where do you see yourself, for example, in 10 years? Do you think you can be, maybe you're back to color, or where are you on this journey? What do you think? What it's ahead?
I have no idea what I'm going to be doing in 10 years. I might have given up on photography by then, because it's, it's tough to make a living of photography nowadays. It's pretty hard. But if everything goes well, I hope I am still a full-time photographer. If not, I'm going to be doing something else, but I'm still doing photography on the side, because it's something that I found that I think it makes my life better. So it's just something that I'm going to be doing forever, for sure. When it comes to the style and the subjects and whatever, I have no idea. This is what it speaks to me today. If you asked me this question like 8 years ago or 9 years ago, I would have told you something like, of course I'm going to be shooting in color and landscape, and now it's totally different. I try to experiment as much as possible, but within boundaries. I still shoot in black and white. I try some aspect ratios. I try different subjects. So I shoot a lot of photos that I never show anywhere online or whatever. It's just for me, just experimentation. And perhaps tomorrow I'll find something that resonates with me, and I'll go down that rabbit hole, But for now, I'm pretty happy with what I'm doing, because I love it, because I enjoy it. And as long as that happens, I think I'm just gonna keep doing that.
How often do you go out photograph?
I take photos every day.
Every day.
It's not. For me, it's just not a matter of going out. I mean, if we talk about like a photography trip, like I take the car with the idea, I go somewhere with the idea of taking photos. Maybe it's 4 times a week or something like that. But I go on walks every day, like at least a couple hours, and I always bring the camera with me. Sometimes I take more photos, sometimes I take fewer photos, but I take photos every day, even if it's at home. I try to see something every day.
Yeah. And this small Sony helps, right? It's always
something. Yeah, it does. It really does. And now I've upgraded to a new phone. I've had a very bad phone for a very long time, and I bought a new one. It has amazing cameras, but I still prefer the standalone camera. If I don't have anything else for whatever reason, maybe I'm running or something, I don't bring my camera with me. That's probably the only time where I'm not bringing my camera. I'll use my phone. But yeah, having a small camera with you all the time helps a lot.
Is there anything you would like to share, with the viewers? Anything we should know about now? Maybe some trips or workshops coming up, maybe a book. What's happening? I will make sure, to share links to whatever it might be.
Yeah, I was planning on releasing a book this year, but it's not happening because I got very busy with other stuff. So yeah, there is not much coming up other than I'm gonna go back to the United States pretty soon. I'm excited because I'm gonna be going on a photography trip for like a month or so. My photography trips are a little bit maybe slightly different because I like to just go with my car, and I live in my car. And I went to Norway a couple of years ago. I lived in my car for 3 months. Last year I went to Scotland for another 3 months. So I'm going to be doing the same in the Southwest, the American Southwest. So I'm going to be going to Arizona and New Mexico and Utah and those places because, I think lately I've been too much focused on photographing like bad weather conditions. So I want to give it a change there by photographing the desert, maybe more sunnier conditions, and that should be interesting.
Yeah, wonderful. Okay, Adrian, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure connecting. Finally, we made it. I will use the video soon, and yeah, we are following. Yeah, we are observing, and just looking at your amazing work and looking forward to what's coming up. Yeah, or in your feed, in your portfolios, and wherever it might be. And the book would be amazing one day.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I also like to say that I also enjoy your YouTube channel. I love what you're doing, and I've watched other interviews, and they are very, very interesting. And
thank you so much, Adrian. Yeah, stay in touch. Thank you so much.
Yeah, for sure.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining me today. If you are hungry for some more photography inspiration, check out this video. You never know when that next spark of creativity will hit. Maybe it's just one click away, ready to elevate your own work to the next level.